And we're live.
All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Weekly Roundup for May 24th, 2024. We were talking earlier before we came on live about, do you allow your staff members to take class while they're on shift? And our studio did allow this, like the desk staff or your support staff, obviously like the teacher is going in to teach, but this would be your desk staff person. And we required them to, one, make sure they clocked out before they went into the yoga room to take class, and they could clock back in later. But also with the caveat that they needed to make sure everything else was done, because we did have before class to-do lists, during class to-do lists, and after class to-do list. And we did, I mean, I know Terry, I'm going to throw it to Terry in a second, because I know she has very strong feelings about this. You know, if they wanted to stay after and clock in and do those during class items afterwards, we did allow that. We figured it's kind of the same amount of time. But anyway, that all being said, some people, you know, allow it, and they're paying their staff members to take class, and that seems really wild to me.
It is. I have a couple of clients that do it, and they're very strategic about it. But here's the thing, because I just got back working with a client, and it turned out that the desk staff were not clocking. They were taking class, and they were not clocking out because someone started to do it, and then, oh, I'm going to do it, and then because why? There was no clear policy. And so it all goes down to whether you allow it or not. That's a decision every owner can make. And like I said, I have a couple of clients now. In both cases, they're bigger studios, meaning they have big capacities, and also they have multiple locations. And so a lot of their desk staff work, like one client, she has a couple seriously full-time desk staff, right? They work over like 32 plus hours a week. And so for her, part of it is because they are working there at the studio so much, and she wants to encourage everybody to practice, that for her, it's like part of a perk of and how she retains people, right? Because it's a really generous perk, and she's able to do that. And that's a very strategic thing. Same with the other client I have. Now, not every studio's in that position to do that. And here's the other thing, is that both of these bigger studios, they have multiple people on the shifts, so that there still is someone at the front desk, even when the other front desk person is taking class, right? So there is still someone there doing things that need to be done. So the first thing is decide if it's a policy you want or not. And then the second thing is communicate it and decide whether you're going to have them clock in or clock out. I mean, again, that's just something you got to look at it from the financial implication and all of those things. And then what I will argue is that they're human nature. You say, as long as everything's done before class. Well, what are you going to, and you want to take class. So what are you going to do? And you don't want to stay late afterwards.
Rush through, or, you know, skip this little thing, or yeah. They don't get done well.
It's getting done, but is it getting done well? Exactly. And then at one studio I was at, and they allowed it. What happened is the front desk person disappeared a couple minutes before class to get ready for class.
Mm.
And then that meant there was nobody at the front desk. Now I happened to be there, and somebody walked in, and I was able to help that person. However, if I wasn't there, what would have happened? So that
was a big thing for us, was like, if you need to communicate with, because there are two people, there's the teacher and the desk person, and there has to be somebody at the front desk at all times.
All time. So get your shit together before.
Mm-hmm.
Set your mat up before, put it like by the door. So it'd be like when class starts, you slide in, kind of thing. And then, you know, so those are all, like they say, the devil's in the details. Those are all things that need to be communicated very clearly to your team. And again, once you've decided what you're going to do, then communicate it in writing. And I just reviewed a client's staff policies and made some comments. And at the very bottom, I added a section that I hereby acknowledge this, and it had the signature, and I said signature and date, and it says this will be put in your personnel file, right? So that you give them a copy, they sign a copy that they've received it, and then they get a copy. And then you have their signature on file that they got the policy. They got the policy, so that there's no, well, you never told me.
Right.
No, I did. Here, it's all in the policies. So, this is the part of owning a business that can be like, for a lot of us, just, it's like, I'm just not so good at that. I mean, all of that stuff. And that's why, A, you get a coach, and B, also that's why you do these things. Because once you do them, they're done. All they need to do is be updated periodically.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a heavy lift. It's just like writing your SOPs. It's a heavy lift in the beginning, and then it becomes pretty simple after that. So
yeah, this for me is bringing up, I'm reminded of an incident where a first timer showed up fairly late, really close to the start time, and our desk person basically turned them away because she wanted to take class.
yeah.
And, she knew it was going to throw off her whole, deal, and like she wasn't going to get to take class. And we actually let her go because it was like, this is not, we put the students first and their needs first. This is a paying client. And I think for me, this goes back to like having regular communication, like you said, with your staff members, team meetings, to remind everybody, why are we here? This is for the community. This is for the students. It's not about you getting to take class. That is a perk. It is a nice to have if that's part of your studio culture, but it doesn't mean you should have that expectation every time. Sometimes it doesn't work out and you have to skip your class. So that was really a rough, we had a Nest Cam and we could see the whole thing, and it was really awful. And, and that person never came back. And I think they even reached out and we were so sorry. We actually let that person go, and they still wouldn't come back. So
that's a bad experience. They're not going to come back. And so circling back to what I said a little bit ago about human behavior and human nature is like, I'm going to race through these things to get done. So then are they being done well? And, there is always stuff, always things that you can do during class. Now, the one caveat to this is I do know in some smaller studios that you walk in, and definitely not more of the studios that aren't hot studios. Most hot studios have a lobby because they have the, a hot room. Although the studio I originally practiced at way back in the early aughts, you walked into the hot room. They had a little desk. That was it, right? But most studios will have some type of lobby. But a lot of studios don't. So that is probably the only time when I would say, well, you can't, but you could still even do things. And like one of my clients has like a little pony wall. And so there is a separation. And so there are still things that someone could do at the front desk that doesn't require them talking. They can be responding to email. They can be doing this. And if it's not the case, then that might be a case where that person could practice because they're not able to do a lot of other stuff. But if that's not the case in your studio, a lot of things can be done. Like my policy was my desk staff did not practice on shift because they were making phone calls, right? They were calling new clients. They were calling people. I was not a direct to membership at the time. They were making those calls towards the end. If they hadn't bought the membership to do the sales calls, they were doing check-in calls. And they're also doing emails and doing all that stuff. And if they got through all that stuff, then guess what? Here's some cleaning things that
or laundry or whatever. Like,
whatever.
I don't want you to be doing the laundry during a check-in or as people are leaving. You get that stuff done while class is going on. Yeah, there's definitely a ton to do.
There's a ton to do. Here's another suggestion of things that people can do during class, on the desk shift during class, is I've got a couple of clients now that even though they've got the emails and all the automations going out for new clients, is they're reaching out the day before.
that just came up with me today or this week. So yeah, I was going to bring that up. They're calling the day before to just say, hey, anything you need, can I answer any questions before you even come? And that seems to be really positive.
It's very, I mean,
Yeah.
and even if, like, and then have that scripted out, and you have a script if, here are the things to mention if you get them live, here are the things to leave on the voicemail. Another opportunity, just emphasize, we really would appreciate it for your first class if you could try to get here at least 10 minutes early so we can get you settled in the space, blah, blah, blah. It's another opportunity just to reiterate if this client I just got back from, they have, excuse me, I got a little something there. I think a little nut. Anyway, they have some to let people know about parking, because their lot's kind of smallish on the small side, right? And if there's in between classes and stuff like that, it's just say, hey, we do have a parking lot. If the lot's full, there is plenty of adjacent street parking. You can park on this street or this street, right? These are the opportunities to enhance that client experience even before they get to the studio, because these are all things that will impact a client's experience. I remember one time I was going to was when I was a teacher. I wasn't working there. I wasn't teaching there. I wasn't a client there, but I was going to take somebody's class just because they invited me to come take their class, and we were going to go lunch, blah, blah, so that, but they didn't tell me. That was something that could be communicated. It was one of those things where it's like it was a big boulevard, and they had the wall, the dividing wall, like the low wall between. So you had to go way, depending on which direction you were coming from off the main highway.
Circle back.
Had to circle back. And that I ended up being late for class, calling them because I got the wrong way, and I had to go way down before I could do a U-turn to come back. And I was and I looked then I went and looked. That's the type of information that can be conveyed on the website. If you're coming north and you're exiting north, make sure you do this. If you're coming south, because it really made a difference what direction you were coming from, how you got to the studio based upon that thing. So these are all things that you can do in those phone calls. The other thing you can do is I'm not sure about Walla and some of the other softwares, but I do know in MindBody, if someone hasn't, you have a wait list and they come in off the wait list, they haven't confirmed that they're coming to class, in MindBody, their name will appear slightly grayed out, right? And you'll notice it, for those of you who don't have MindBody, there's a little check box over on the side. It says wait list confirmed. And if someone's confirmed the wait list, then that is checked and their name is in normal scale. But if it's not, then it's like a grayscale. So, and also if you look on your class roster, when you look on the page, it has a list of classes. If you see a class that has a little red star next to it, that means there's people in the class that didn't waitlist confirm. I don't know if you knew that, Carol.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes you look at the roster and you'll see classes that had waitlists and stuff. You'll see these little red stars. That means that there are people that were in the class that did not confirm the waitlist. So one thing you can do during class check-in is if there's any of those people that are not confirmed for the waiting list, guess what you can do? You can pick up the phone and say, hey, Carol, just wanted to make sure that you got the notification that you got into class tomorrow. You got into the 9:30 with Terry tomorrow. Just want to make sure you're going to be here. Remember, if you're not going to be able to make it, make sure you cancel so that you get, blah, blah, blah. So again, these are all the things that you can have your staff do during class check-in, which is why I am not a fan. Unless it's very specific and you have someone working full-time and they're putting in 8 hours in a day and they've got all this extra time to do it. So I will stop my rant on that, topic. Yeah, and it all goes back to defining your SOPs. And like Carol said, what is it you had at your studio again? Talk about that with the SOPs. You mentioned it before.
Do you mean
before?
Yeah. We used Asana as a task management tool, and we had before class for the AM. and we had before class for the PM, like
So
we
you had
had it
specific
very defined.
fine. So it wasn't just
And
for all, it was like you
for
broke
all,
it up
yeah,
AM shift, PM shifts. Love that.
exactly. And then, those subtasks were there for the before class, the during class, and the after class. And because the after class was different for the AM versus the
Yeah,
PM, and some of the
right.
other things like opening, was a
Yeah.
little bit different. We also had those were daily tasks, but we had weekly and monthly tasks. So,
Mhm.
rotating them with certain things that just needed to be dusted here and there, or, check in on the supply list and get, send the facilities manager a list of all the things that they need to go pick up. And, once we had those, it takes a lot of upfront work and thought, but the end result is things running really smoothly and you don't run out of things.
Yeah,
And, like everybody just kind of knows what their expectations are. And if they don't do the thing, you can say, but it's on the list, like, why is this not getting done?
right.
And yeah, so it's really helpful. We had links out to uh, a like a deeper dive into SOPs from the Asana task list to our Google Drive, where we could have a really detailed SOP, which we talk about the macro and the micro
Mhm.
SOPs, so that if somebody was very new and they needed to have a
The
look at
extra
like every little step, yeah, instead of having a paper copy or a physical copy, we could do it there electronically, and it was easy to make changes
yeah.
in one place there that way. So yeah, and it's still to this day is working very well. The desk staff stay on top of those, and the Asana gets checked off, and it feels really satisfying.
It does. It is fun when you check it out and the little cow over the moon goes or the
Yeah,
little unicorn
with the
goes. Like
rainbow coming out of its
rainbow coming out.
backside.
That just makes you feel really good to have that to check off the list.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've looked at, I pinned it to the top in the YC that Loom upgraded their offering,
AI.
enhanced their offering, and it is, oh my gosh, it is so cool. We did it just this week. It was at the studio. I did a thing on they're starting to use iPad check-in. And it's like how to set up the iPad for class. And they use Walla. And so the owner went in and just did a walkthrough in the Walla screen and said, this is where you go. You click up here, blah, 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 then scroll down till you'll find this and then click on this link and this is what happens. And then this is the cool thing is that when she was done with the video, you click on edit and there's the SOP written for you.
You posted that in the network, Terry, and I was like, my heart like leapt. I was like, this is amazing. I would be using it for everything.
Yeah. And then you can so even if you don't use Asana, as I said in the video, although I tell you, I'm getting more and more, I never thought I'd say this. When we first started using Asana, it was like, oh, I hate this. But I have to say that I've really come to appreciate Asana more and more. And even if you don't have Asana, you can still, I would recommend doing Loom. And I don't know how expensive, like you have to upgrade. I do think you need to have the paid plan. Well, you're going to want to have the paid plan because the free version, well, it's great, is you're limited to a maximum of 25 videos that they'll store, and you're limited to 5 minutes. Now, typically most videos aren't, but there are times if you have a very detailed SOP or something that you really need to walk through, that 5 minutes isn't going to be enough. So that's one tool I would think that would pay for itself over, time and time again. But anyway, so even if you don't have Asana and you have Loom, you can copy those and put them just in a Google Doc.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, Loom is a way to capture video either from your laptop or computer screen. So it could be something that if you're like wanting to show how to, I don't know,
How to check
point of
someone's
sale. Yeah, check
Yeah.
somebody in class,
Yeah.
whatever it is. You can do it from that way, or you could even get the app on your phone and do a video that way. and it's a simple link that you share, and it's a really, really easy way to capture a video for your team, and you don't have to download it somewhere and upload it somewhere else and all this mess. And what Terry was saying is that now the AI can like basically create an SOP based on the video that you shot. And so, yeah, go ahead.
And to your point, Carol, they do the macro steps.
Yeah.
And then they do the detailed steps as
Yeah.
well. So you can copy those and then put those in Asana. And then what's really cool is you can copy the detailed steps, and then you can put those as subtasks under the macro. And you could say, micro steps below. And then if someone, like you were mentioning, if someone needs those micro steps, then the micro steps are all right in the Asana as well, or in Google Drive.
Yeah.
It just makes, it just makes life easy.
I mean, like I said, I was like smiling from ear to ear. This is the best tool ever. I love it.
Yeah, it is. There are some tech tools, which is why we recommend them, is there are tech tools that we use and we find just highly efficient. The other one, like Fathom Note Taker, is another great tool that we use. Those of you who have us as coaches will notice that we've been using that, and that's how you're getting your follow-up, your action items, is with the Fathom Note Taker. And the clients that we were just on their on-site this week is going to start using it. And it does, I did find out, they use Google Meet, and it works, it integrates with Google Meet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so those of you who are not using like Zoom or something like that, if you're using Google Meet, it integrates with Google Meet. And here what was really good for this owner, because she is currently running her studio remotely, is the front desk team lead is supposed to have a weekly meeting with the front desk just via a quick 15-minute check-in via Google Meet. And has no idea if those are actually happening and what's being said, because there were some things when we go and do an on-site, we often peel back layers of onions, and it's like a layer. We find things that sometimes are like, oh, wow, we need to fix this. Or so there were some things that came up that were like, what's happening here, kind of thing. And so this is a way I was like, well, hey, when he does these meetings, use the Fathom, sends you the link, and then you know exactly what happened in the meeting. And the cool thing with
like it basically summarizes the whole thing for you, or you could read the transcript, or you can watch it. I mean, there's like so many. I don't know if that's where you're going, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I was to say that, and it gives you the action items. And so you can record action items, and then this is again another tech tool, is when you can copy that and paste it in Asana, and then you can assign those action items to the person who needs to follow up on it. So, and some of you might be saying, well, I don't really do I need all this stuff? I would say, yeah. I would say, why not? Why not? It makes, I mean, what do you think? I mean, for a smaller studio or a new studio, Carol, what are your thoughts on that? Do someone really need all these tech tools? What would you think? I mean,
knowing what I know now, I would say yes, everyone needs it. I think it can be intimidating to start, but at the very least, you need your task management, even if it's just for yourself. When we started using Asana for the studio, I realized how much, I'm a list maker, like paper, and I would just have lists and lists and lists and trying to find what's the next task I'm going. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And so I started to do my own personal task list. Well, I still like to write certain things down, but I have like my daily, monthly, weekly, things that I do personally. So I don't have to think about it or like, I need to do that by the 15th every month or whatever. And it's there. So I think for a newer studio, at the very least, you need a task management system. You need a communication system. You need those things defined. A lot of things we talk about in the SOS bootcamp, the Google Drive for just documents and so just some of those things, and that way, if you start off with these things, everyone's comfortable with them as they come on board too. So I think that's what can be a challenge, is once you've been an established business for a while and then you try to bring something like these in, you can get some pushback or some, so start off with them with these tools,
And if you are, a smaller, studio right now in terms of staff and stuff like that, when I think back, like, in the beginning, you might not have all these different staff people, right? It might just be you and some teachers, or you and maybe one or two desk staff. And, it could be a very small team. And you're thinking, well, do I really need all of this because I'm doing it all? Well, here's the thing. Eventually, and that's, I think, what contributes to a lot of the stress and the overwhelm as a business owner, is that when you use some of these, as I would almost argue that when your team is tiny, that's where you lean into technology. And you lean into these tech tools to free up your time to help you have that work-life balance, so that you're not constantly doing all these little things. And then as your team grows, guess what? They're already defined. So if you're doing a lot of the stuff now, then take the time to do it, because then you can give it to somebody else. Or if you're like really in, like, well, when we were at the Vermont onsite, at Liz's studio, and I get this, it's like very much about brand, and it's like how the brand is represented, and there's a specific way she wants the towels folded. And I've encountered that at other studios before. Well, guess what? Make a video on that.
I did for our studio. This is how we fold this type of towel. This is how we fold that type of towel. I mean, it was specific for a reason, and I'm not ashamed of it. But I made videos.
But you made videos, and now you can make an SOP from the video with that great.
Exactly.
So I think you guys can tell that we're definitely about SOPs and stuff like that. So if you don't know where to start, if you're thinking, where do I start? Where would you tell someone to start? Where did you start with SOPs, Carol? Because you were way more organized than I was. Where would someone start? What are the ones you think would be?
Well, we definitely started with the desk staff task lists. We already had them in a checklist format at the front desk. I believe we actually had laminated sheets with like everything that we wanted to have done, and like they could just use a dry erase marker and mark them off. But what that didn't allow for is the how-to, like a deeper dive, or like if somebody needed like a very specific how-to. So when we learned about Asana, that was definitely our first thing. And like the list was already there. It was just a matter of taking it from the laminated sheet into Asana and figuring out how to set it up properly so everything was there. And then I got really into it, and we had a facilities manager, and we had a front desk, like an office manager. And it was a lot of like the facilities man. This is what made me really, really happy. The facilities manager's job was to make sure all of the back office items were stocked, like toilet paper, detergent, etc. Also, he was there to, if an electrician needed to come, or a plumber or whatever, he was in charge of that. Light bulbs that went out, little maintenance things around the studio, right? So what I loved is that at some point I was able in Asana to assign him, the light bulb on the left side of the women's above the sink on the left side is out. And I would assign it to him and set a date like a week or so in advance. I didn't need him to do it immediately. And then I didn't even really have to have a conversation with him. He got a notification that it was there, and I would get a notification when it was checked off by him. And I felt like my world changed. The sunshine came out. Like, I didn't have to like remember to call him and like, hey, can you do this? And then check up to see if it happened. It just all was seamless. And yeah, it was amazing. And things working.
Yes, Start with the simple things. Start with the things that you do all the time.
Mhm.
And then here's one that I doubt many people have is what if there are certain things you do that only you will ever do. But what happens if you're sick? What happens if you have to have emergency surgery? Or what happens if you want to go on vacation and at that certain thing, like I'm thinking one like payroll.
Yep.
So that would be where you would have an SOP on how to do payroll. And then that would be something that you would let someone know if you were actually not able to do payroll. Then you would have a trusted individual that knew where that was and have access to that so that anybody could go in, have access to whatever you needed to have access to. That's why, and then have the steps to run payroll.
Mhm.
Right? Because hashtag Terry's dad, you got to pay your people.
Oh yeah.
And so that's another one. So think about some of those things. And I want to actually circle way back to the beginning when we were talking about when you mentioned the person coming in the 11th hour. This has come up a lot in a lot of studios is, you've got, if they haven't signed up online or they're coming in with a buddy pass, and it happened 2 times at the studio this week. I was at this week. So this is where I'll just shout this out this is where still having paper waivers makes sense. Right? So if you don't have paper waivers, I know we want everything electronic and that's great. However, if someone really is coming in, flying in at 1 or 2 minutes before class, and you're not going to have time to get them set up in the system, you're not going to have them time to like scan, download, do the profile, just have a paper waiver there. It's like, hey, Carol, we need, before you can take class, the one thing we need to have you do is acknowledge the waiver. Can you please sign this? And then we'll talk after class. Because it happened where someone came in, they didn't, and the person took class. My brain's thinking the whole time, okay, this person's in the class, taking this class, and they haven't signed the waiver. All their class, it's like, she hasn't signed the waiver, she hasn't signed the waiver, right? So that's something that you can, and that now is part of their SOP. We added that to the SOP, is that's what they're supposed to do. So, yeah, anyway. I think,
Good point.
yeah, good point. Yeah. Carol, you mentioned something, about you've been building some websites this week for clients, right?
Yeah, I'm working on a website, and I guess what's coming up again, which we've talked about before, but remembering that the point of the website is to convert new people to your intro, make it a seamless purchase process, and guide them to the next step, which is booking a class. So, I think that it's just a lot of studio owners, they get really into how they need to have all the pricing options for all of their, well, I can go into that separately, but but like a lot of extra information that most people are not going to, or you're going to direct them to a separate page for, let's say, a YTT, or you need to have a separate long form sales page for some of these bigger ticket items like a retreat or YTT. But like a basic website, thinking through, we need pictures of basic postures, happy people. I see a lot of photos of people doing these beautiful, postures and things like that. But when you're trying to attract a new person, we don't want to be intimidating. We want to be, seem accessible. And again, the point is to sell this new person on coming to your studio. So thinking in those terms whenever you're building the website, or looking at your own and maybe doing an audit of your current website, like, do I have these things? Am I going straight to schedule? Or am I talking about on the homepage, like, hey, we're a welcoming community and this is what we do? Again, I mean, we've talked about this before, but it's the grunt test. Somebody looks at your website and like in under like 2 seconds, you are trying to convey, what is it? Why do I want it? And how do I get it? So via the visuals, the titles, or the headers, that needs to be very clear. And then how do I join as a new person? Like sometimes it's hard to know. I'll audit a website, or I know you've done this before with clients too. We go look and it's like, the first thing you usually see is schedule, but it's like, as a new person, we need to cater to those eyeballs, I guess.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say whenever they come to your website. So join, start here, intro special, whatever it is, like
New
that should
start
be
here.
new start here. Yeah. So,
Because you
and
think
yeah.
about it, I would say most of your existing clients are going to use the app, whether it's the MindBody app or the Walla app or the whoever, to book their class,
Mhm.
right? If you don't have an app, then one hack you can do is you can send them to the schedule page and then say, hey, go to the schedule page, save this link to your phone, and then they can still book through the schedule page, but they're doing it through their phone. They're going to go right to the schedule page. So that's so you got to realize that. I always use this example when I was looking, when I discovered Bikram yoga way back in the early aughts. I've been practicing in my hometown, and I wanted to know I wonder if there's I wonder if there's a Bikram yoga studio or a hot yoga studio near where I live. That was that point I was living in Concord, California, which is east about 30 miles east of San Francisco. I went to the good old fashioned yellow pages. Right. And that's what I always like. I think of your website as your yellow page. And that's what, like a Google search, hot yoga near me, right? People are looking for you and they want to have, like Carol said, what is it? Why do I want it? It's like, okay, this is what I want. I'm new, I'm here. And if they're not new, then they'll go, if you're like, they want it, they'll go and look for the other things.
Mhm.
But I would bet that the majority of people coming to your website first time, what do they want? You want them to book a class, but to book a class, they got to buy something, right? So yeah, just make sure it's optimized for that new client journey. That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And make sure you don't use not the kiss of death. I was just on audited a website the other day. Talk about the kiss of death, Carol.
Okay. Well, so we call the kiss of death whenever, and mostly it's with MindBody, that someone is using a link to the like back end basically look of MindBody. So then they end up on the MindBody customer side and they get to buy the class, but then they're in MindBody and they're no longer on your website. So there are other ways to go about this. You can still use MindBody branded web and go through the flow of checkout, but then direct them back to your website to a thank you page that says, oh, thank you for your purchase. Next thing you do is book a class. So we're taking them through that whole journey. But if you just send them to the booking link that you have, like it's in like the settings of MindBody, I believe, where you can go to links, right? And so people will copy that and use that for their website. You're taking them completely away from your brand. It looks different, it feels different.
Well, and you're sending it to the like you said, the consumer site that is web version and is not mobile friendly. And if you ever have tried to book that way, it is not fun, which is why MindBody, that's why a company called Heal Code years and years ago came up with a solution, and then MindBody actually bought out Heal Code because that's the product they developed, and that's why they have the branded web tools. And so yeah, you want to make sure that one of the first things we do when we get a new client or working with someone, and we not only look at their website, I click all the links.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing you should do regularly is click all your links. Are they broken? Are they working? Are they going where they're supposed to go? It's amazing how many times I click on the link and it doesn't go. Whatever. It's what you get, the error 404 page not found, whatever. Or it takes you someplace that's completely wrong, or it doesn't work, or whatever. So you want to make sure all the links work. Same goes for marketing automation. When you're sending out an email, you're setting up like our email or text campaign, is always send it to yourself first and review it
and click all the links.
Click all the links, because there are a number of times when I was doing my brand bot emails and stuff where I would set it up and then oh shoot, I got the wrong link, or the link doesn't work, or whatever. And that's the other thing too, is then that's like, oh, this looks crappy and it's like doesn't look so good. I need to format it better, particularly if you're reading and keeping in mind, what are most people reading your emails and stuff? It's on their mobile
On their
device.
phone. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
want to make sure that it's formatted correctly, looks good on the phone, and all of those things. So it just takes a few extra minutes, and it can make a big difference, especially, if you're selling it. How many times, and we all done it. I mean, I just got one from a major company. It's like, oops, we sent you the wrong links, or oops, the link doesn't work. So here's the new link, kind of thing. So even big corporations and big companies make that mistake. It's like, so you want to make sure you don't have to send out that oops email.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
like the Mind Body one, where they rolled out the thing about the Apple Pay or whatever it was, and then it was like, oops, we sent this email out too soon, it doesn't work yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like the marketing department wasn't talking to the tech side. It was like the right not knowing what the left is doing. They were like, it's coming, but it's not ready yet. And they sent out this whole big, and I posted about it in the YC.
Ooh.
He said, did you get the oopsie email there? I went, oh shoot.
I wonder if they, their tech was like, this will be done by this date. And then, so that was pre-scheduled and,
Yeah, whatever.
how that goes. Uh,
Would not have
man,
wanted to be that department head when that happened, for sure.
no.
No, no, no. Well, wow. We've talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts as we head into God, I can't believe it's May already.
I can't believe it either. I don't know. If it's a little bit slower time, you have a moment. We talked about this last week. One, take some time for yourself, but also maybe clean up some of these little things. Like go just check your website, put it on your task list. Click the links.
Yes, do that. And what if you enlist some friends or some family or people, not like send it to if you have a friend out of state and not in your community, right? Say, hey, would you check out my website and see how, send it to, some trusted people, friends and family out, and just say, hey, would you check this out and let me know what you think about any feedback on that.
Yeah.
Right. That's where you can enlist the help, or like in the YC here. Hey, if you want to, put your website, say, hey, I'm looking for some feedback on my website. Here's my link. If anybody wants to click on it and let me know what you think, post the comments below. I mean, that's what's the beauty of our community, is that you can get other eyeballs, people that are in our industry, to take a look at it and say, wow, this is great, or wow, this is what happened when I did this, and this doesn't make sense to me. Here are some suggestions that might be helpful. Like I was in when I went on the onsite this week, I stayed in an Airbnb, and the owner or the host gave me very detailed instructions about where the door was. It was the black stairs with the awning, and here's your house. Here's the keypad, and here's the code, and this is what you do. It was very, very, very detailed. However, I got there. It was 10 o'clock at night. Fortunately, I felt very safe there because it took me 5 minutes to find the house, even though because their house numbers were this big. I kid you not. And the house was set back. You could not, I went and checked even in the daytime, it was really hard to see the number.
The number, yeah.
Right. And then how I found it is I finally was like, I was like, okay, I think this has to be the house. And then when I turned the corner, because the house was on the corner, then they had like a little like gate, and on that gate, which was not on the street, their actual address, that's where I found the numbers. And so the feedback I'm going to give them is, and I even wrote it up and saved it in my phone. I said, here's what and just say, tell people the house is on the corner of this street and this street. There's a flagpole in the front yard. The entrance is on Berkeley Street. There's an old-fashioned arbor. That's where you come in. The parking lot is just beyond that. Because when you arrive at night, I mean, even during the day. So those are the type of things that, with other eyeballs can see, right? So I don't know if he'll appreciate that. We'll see. But
Well, it can be dangerous if you're in the wrong, so yeah, I would want to know. I don't want to be creeping around somebody else's house by accident. Like, am I in the right spot?
And I'm pulling my suitcase up and down, looking
Yeah.
at it. I was actually starting to get really frustrated.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try. I think this is a house, and and it was, and it worked out fine. But it's just like, that's the type of information that, you want to make sure, those are the type of things on your website that you want to make sure are, if there's anything ambiguous, if there's anything that you take for granted, if like, go through the process, have someone do it, walk through it so that they understand, and then give feedback. Is like, well, I didn't understand this, or this didn't make sense, and this is my experience. And those are the things that will really help in terms of, your website and the information that they get and stuff like that. So anyway, well, we covered the gamut this morning. Go write some
Yes.
SOPs.
Yeah. Write some SOPs, try some task management, and make sure you have clearly defined expectations of whether your staff can take class. Yeah.
And if this is stuff that's like, oh, man, I really could use some help with this, or this is all really good, don't forget, we still have spots coming up for the summit. The summit is coming up. And if you really want to get help getting stuff dialed in and all that kind of stuff, check it out. Again, this year we have the managers track. We have a couple of our studios that are bringing their managers. And so we've created a specific track just for managers and optimizing things and things like that. So definitely check that out. It's posted in the YC. There's still a spot. There's only 3 spots left if you want to stay on site at Shamina. So if you really want to stay on site with us, there is 3 spots left, and we do still have some and we did we kind of mixed up the VIP part of it, in that we still have some VIP spots, and what we've done is, if you've already booked, and a bunch of people have already booked off site, but if you want, even whether you booked off site or you want to stay off site, you could still add on the VIP experience. And what the VIP experience is you get the GSD day, which is the Get Shit Done day. So it gets an extra day, which will be that Friday. So we'll work really, really dial things in, and it's just limited to only 8 people. So they'll practically be one-on-one with the whole YC. There's like 6 of us. It's like you get the whole team and 7 other studio owners. So that's included. And then what also is included is your the dinner with the team every night. So that way you get the coaches and Josh and everybody. So that's part of the VIP experience. So if you want to stay off site, but you would like to have that VIP experience, when you check out, there's an option to add that on at the end. So you can stay off site and still be part of that VIP experience. So if that's of interest to you, if you can't find it, just let us know. We can send you the link for that too, because I think that's really super exciting as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's going to be here before we know it.
It is going to be here before we know it. But we're already, May's almost done. It's Memorial Day weekend here in the States. And so it's like, the year's almost half over.
I know. It's wild.
It's wild. It is wild. And, if the year's almost half over and you're feeling disappointed on your results and you don't have a coach, reach out, book a free coaching call.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to help you, start working towards what's important in your business, where we can grow. And it's not too late. You still got time to get those numbers up, get those memberships up, whatever it is where you might need some help and support around. And that's part of the benefit of coaching, is that oftentimes what you think is the problem isn't the problem. We help identify what's actually the issue. Is it really a lead generation problem, or is it a retention problem? Right? I have a client in California that has tons of people coming through their door, is in LA, but the problem is retention. They're not getting the people on. So we've been working on, now they're getting more people on the intro, and now we're getting to more people on the membership. But they were like, well, we need more memberships. But I'm like, well, this is the problem. You got to get people on, so it's like, that's what the things that as a coach, we can help you identify is what is the actual thing that's going on? Where do we actually need to focus our energies? Maybe we need to do A before we can do B.
We start to peel back those layers, like you
Peel back
said.
the layers.
Figure
All
that
right.
out, clean it up. Yep.
It up.
Okay.
All right. Well, everybody have a for those of you in the States, happy Memorial Day. And yeah, go do some yoga, go do some SOPs, look at your employee expectations, your teacher expectations, make sure that they're clear, they're communicated, everybody knows. Because when everything is clearly defined and clearly communicated, it just makes life so much easier. Because wouldn't you say, Carol, that the majority problems arise when things aren't? I think A, you think B. We're both, right?
100%. I mean, that's, there was something I used to say, and I'm going to mess it up now, but it's like the lack of no, I don't, it's escaped me. But basically we need expectation. If to meet expectation, we need it clearly defined. So everybody knows we're on the same page. There's no confusion, and that clarity is necessary for everyone to be comfortable. So,
and what that also helps with is if everything is there clearly defined and everybody knows, then it's very easy to identify people that aren't meeting the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes it easier to have those conversations with someone about, okay, Carol, what's going on here? This is you've been late before. We've talked about, so it's like makes it much easier to have those conversations when expectations aren't being met because it's clearly defined.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this from experience. When I hired someone to be one of my teachers to be manager, and it ended up, and I did not, that was a big learning opportunity for me. I thought I had clearly communicated to her what they were. However, I had not, because I didn't have them. I was just like, they were very vaguely defined. They weren't,
Mm-hmm.
My coach helped me with that. And it didn't work out because it wasn't anything on her. It's because I had not clearly communicated to her, and she thought what she was doing was correct, but it wasn't what was wrong. It wasn't the thing that I needed her to do, right? Mm-hmm. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She just wasn't, I was like, and I finally figured out, it's like, oh, she's not, and she didn't understand because I hadn't clearly communicated it.
Yeah. And
then it just turned out it was a round peg, square hole. And then what I really wanted to do, she didn't want to do. That was part of it, So anyway, long story, it's like, that's why it's good to have those things defined and explained. And then it makes it much, much easier in your hiring. It makes it much easier if you need to offboard somebody. It just makes your life easier. Yeah. Okay. I got to go because I have a client call coming up here in about 7 minutes. I got to get ready for. Well, again, check out the summit if you haven't done already. Grab one of those VIP spots. Only 3 spots left at Shemina, which is where you're staying on the property. And if you have any questions, post in the YC, let us know. We do have a payment plan. So there is a payment plan. If that's an option for you, you can let us know that. So no excuse as to not come into the summit.
It's the best money you'll spend on your business, in my opinion.
Yep, because Carol, you were there on the other side, right?
I was.
Yeah.
In 2019 as a studio owner, and it's only gotten better. I mean, I had an amazing experience, really confident coming out of that. And it's just gotten better since then. So,
yeah, and when you say that really helped you during the pandemic too, right?
Oh, yes, 1,000,000%. Yeah, we were, that was 2019, so we were coming back raw, ready to go, and 2020 was an interesting year, as we all know. But yeah, it definitely helped us navigate that.
Yeah. Okay, team. Have a great rest of your day. Carol, thank you as always. Lovely chatting with you, friend. And we'll see you guys in the YC. Go do some yoga.